Okay, so we will just move right along to the next presentation. If you'd gone to any of our CSA workshops, Steve Conley with Maryland Department of Ag usually gave this presentation, but Steve did not want to present tonight, so I'm filling in for Steve. But we're going to look at sort of building your 2015 risk management plan. Kind of already talked about the sponsors with the grant. One thing I need to highlight in this is part of my job is I work with Sarah and Ashley, who's not on tonight, as a part of the Ag Law Education Initiative. And then part of my other job is to work on risk management, crop insurance, farm bill type issues with the Maryland Crop Insurance Project. Maryland is a state that has traditionally had low crop insurance participation rates. So we are in partnership with University of Maryland Extension, which I'm associated with the Maryland Department of Agriculture, and then USDA's Risk Management Agency to help promote and educate Maryland farmers on crop insurance and why they should consider it as a part of their risk management plan. We have a Facebook page. You can like us on that. And then one other thing I should talk about, Sarah's already talked about this, but this is just a link to the blog. This is something done through the Ag Law Education Initiative, crop insurance. We sort of cover that host of issues right there. And if I can get my little arrow out here, you can sign up for updates right there, put your email in, and we will send you emails whenever something comes up. There's a lot of labor posts up there that Sarah has done. We have quite a few posts on crop insurance issues from the Farm Bill and a whole host of other things. There's also a search feature right here that you can go through and kind of search to find out what you're looking for there. Rid of the arrow. So moving on to the presentation, and one thing I do not have a slide on that I should promote while we're on here. If anyone is interested in doing a webinar on leasing the first 2 weeks of May in the evening on Monday nights, we're going to do a leasing webinar. You can click on that link where it says leasing webinar and it'll take you to the Eventbrite page to sign up if you're interested in that. We're going to cover landlord-tenant communication and the Maryland Ag Mediation Program the first night, and then we're going to cover leasing, legal issues, how to set a fair rent, and then Greg Bowen with Maryland FarmLink is going to talk about his website and some of the tools available on it for producers looking to rent land or landlords looking to rent out their land. Now that I'm done with all the promotion stuff, what are we going to talk about in this presentation? Well, we're going to talk about the new whole farm revenue crop insurance option that's available as a part of the 2014 Farm Bill. On the shared links, you'll see a link to the crop insurance page. We have a fact sheet up there that just came out a couple of weeks ago. So if you forget anything I say tonight, it goes into a little bit more detail into the program itself. We're trying to work up more real farm examples using this option. We see some potential there to where potentially as we look at it, there's areas where, traditional commodity growers and fruits and vegetable growers may actually benefit from this program compared to other crop insurance. So we're trying to work up some examples with that to kind of demonstrate that. So that will be available soon. We're going to look at changes to the non-insured crop disaster assistance program, or NAP, that is available through Farm Service Agency with USDA. And then we're going to look at some other changes to the crop insurance program. One thing we're really not going to talk about is cover the basics of crop insurance tonight that I know a lot of people want. Howard Leathers, who works with me on crop insurance, we're working up some materials on that, and we hope in the fall to potentially have some webinars walking new producers, older producers, anyone through sort of the what is crop insurance and what does it do and how do you go about making this decision process. But those are still in the works. We got deterred with new Farm Bill stuff, so we're now getting back to sort of the push on some of the other education materials we need to be working on. But looking at this new whole farm revenue protection, it's going to cover all your commodities grown on the farm, including animals, animal products, revenue, including commodities purchased for resale. There's a limit of up to 50% of the total revenue on those. There's no protection, though, for timber, forest, forest products, or animals raised for sport, show, or pets. So if you're raising dogs along with your vegetable operation, those are not going to be able to be covered under it. If you're raising show animals for 4-H or FFA kids, those are also not going to be covered under this. The coverage levels are going to be between 50 to 85% of the expected revenue. And we'll talk about here in a minute how we set expected revenue. It's going to cover natural losses, declining market price within the crop insurance year, and the premium subsidies range from about 55 to 85%. There are payments available on it for replanting if that comes up, and there are also opportunities to use multi-peril crop insurance to buy up on selected individual crops with this. And this is just a simple example of what it would do. So you're going to look at what your 5-year adjusted revenue is. In this example, it's $100,000. You go in, you take out 75% coverage level, so you set the loss trigger at $75,000. So you come in this year, you produce, you have a bad year, your revenue's only at $30,000. Well, you have an insurance payment of $45,000 to cover that loss. So if you look down here at the bottom, with insurance, you're at least going to get $75,000 back. If you take nothing out, there's $30,000. As we're going to talk about, looking at this is all part of a risk management plan, that if you're doing a CSA, it's going to be a part of that plan to help cover some risk. You're potentially going to do other things to cover risk. This is just one option in the risk management plan, and we have some tools available at the end we'll talk about to help you walk through some of the decision-making process and what level of coverage might you want to take out in this. So when you walk in to see your crop insurance agent, and if it was easy to scroll back to that first slide where I had who the partners are in the crop insurance project, we have a link up there on RMA's website to finding a crop insurance agent in your area if you do not already have one. But if you're going to walk in, this is the paperwork they're going to ask for on this. It's a little more complicated than the traditional crop insurance that many people might be used to. You're going to have to fill out the application for it. You're going to need previous 5 tax years, this whole farm history report. You're going to need your Schedule F. You're going to need a farm operations report. You're going to have to go through and do your allowable expenses and revenue worksheets, a beginning and ending inventory reports, potentially accounts receivable and accounts payable, market animal and nursery inventory and accounting worksheets if you're doing nursery products or livestock. And then you're going to have to verify complete marketing records for each commodity. So we're looking at a lot more records that are going to have to be given out on this product. But again, it's also protecting all of the revenue on your farm. So we want to make sure that we're actually looking at the right levels of revenue. I am not a fan of this table. I think there's too much information on it, but as I said, this was Steve's presentation and I'm kind of just giving it. But whole farm is replacing AGR and AGR Light. In Maryland, we didn't have really anybody take out AGR. It wasn't seen as a useful product by many people. The few people that did take it out in the state loved it, thought it did a really good job, but there was probably 10 to 15 people that took it out in the state. The hope is, as we look at this, there's potentially more areas where this would work better for some producers than others. And like I said, we're trying to get more information out on it. The one thing to point out is the sales closing date is March 15th. We've already passed it for this year, but it'll come around next year, so it may be something you want to consider. The other thing we're going to talk about now is NAP coverage. So NAP coverage is for all other products, all other commodities that do not have a crop insurance product, there is NAP coverage available through Farm Service Agency. And the 2014 Farm Bill did a lot of changes to the NAP coverage option. So prior to the 2014 Farm Bill, NAP pretty much covered 50% of expected production. The Farm Bill changed that to make it more like crop insurance. So now we start at the 50% level, but we allow you to buy up coverage like we would in crop insurance up to 65% of expected production. We're going to talk here on the next slide that if you do use this buy up option, there is a premium associated with it. And I will plug the crop insurance page again. If you go over there, we walk you through a lot more examples. I realized after I got this PowerPoint put together tonight in the fact sheet for NAP, we have a premium example, and I forgot to put it in my PowerPoint, so I apologize for that. But looking at the NAP premium, you're going to pay the lesser of, a fee of $250 per crop or $750 per producer per county, and a max fee of $1,800, more or less. The other thing that the Farm Bill added in is, like I said, they made it more like crop insurance, so they added a premium onto it. So there is a 5.25% premium when you purchase liability. So if you go up beyond 50%, you add on this 5.25% premium to it. Again, if you look at the worksheet, we did walk you through an example, and I apologize for not putting it on here tonight. One thing to point out with NAP and with some of the other stuff we're going to talk about changes in crop insurance, there are beginning farmer options for this. So if anyone is a beginning farmer with less than 10 years of experience, there's going to be a waiver of that service fee I talked about up at the top, and there's going to be a 50% premium discount on buy-up coverage. The 50% level is going to be free. So CAT level is going to be free under NAP, but if you buy up, it's going to be 2.63% of liability instead of the 5.25%. It's also going to be true if you're a limited resource or socially disadvantaged farmer. I would tell you to look at USDA's website to see if you match the qualifications for any of those. The other good thing about this, Whole Farm currently doesn't have a premium calculator, but NAP does. Some of the more traditional commodity products do have a calculator on RMA's website. But with NAP, there is this calculator, and it's fairly simple to use. And it was developed through Farm Service Agency and the University of Illinois, and it allows you to at least gauge what your potential premiums are going to be under this. So you just have to know a little bit of what your production history has been, go in, put it in the calculator, and it kind of shoots out what it expects your premium to be. Now remember, the premium could always be different when you walk into the FSA office because it will have the most latest numbers put in the system. Like I said, there's more information. We walk you through a better example of this on how to use this. For anyone doing organic agriculture out there, there are improved protections with the 2014 Farm Bill. This is a continuation of what was started before the 2014 Farm Bill. RMA is working to add more organic price elections for more crops. As it says in the slide, for 2014, there were 8 additional crops were added on. So oats, peppermint, apricots, apples, blueberries, almonds, pears, and grapes for juice. This is bringing it up to a total of 16. So if you're doing one of these commodities or one of the prior 8, and I can't remember what the prior 8 were off the top of my head, you now have an option between conventional and organic prices. From what I've read, RMA is working to increase this to more commodities. It just takes time to get a lot of the data entered and make sure it's still actuarially sound. The other thing to talk about that changed with the 2014 Farm Bill is there are now options for beginning farmers. There are some incentives to get beginning farmers to purchase crop insurance in the program. And beginning farmer, at least for crop insurance purposes, is the first 5 years. It's not 10 years like it is with other USDA programs. It's the first 5 years. So if you're looking at this, it's going to exempt you from CAT and additional coverage policy fees. You're going to get 10 additional percentage points on your premium subsidy. So if your premium subsidy is at 60%, it's going to bump it up to 70%. One of the big changes is you get to use production history of a farming operation that you were previously involved in the decision making or physical activity. So if you take over an operation from someone, you can include their production history when you go in to buy crop insurance. So at least you walk in with some production history in it. One other thing we don't have up there before I talk about the last thing is this first 5 years, if I remember right, does not count against you if you are working on a farm or running a farm and you go to school to study something related to agriculture or you join the military. So during that period of time, they call a timeout, and then when you come out, the time period starts running again. The other thing to talk about is there is an increase in the substitute yield adjustment, which allows you to replace a low yield due to an insured cause of loss. So if you walk in, you don't have yield history that year, you get to use 80% of that transitional yield instead of the typical 60%. And staying with T yields, one of the biggest things that at least producers in the West wanted who had been through drought is they had wanted an option to exclude certain years' yields from their production histories that were turned into crop insurance. So a change was made that if your county suffers a 50% yield loss, producers in that county or adjacent counties may omit their yield for that year's production. Currently, it's mainly spring crops that this has come out for, and I can't remember the exact number of spring crops this came out for off the top of my head. We did have some with corn and soybeans in Maryland. They are working on fall crops to get that out by the fall, I think sometime this summer. And I believe that there will be more crops added on to this. But whenever this happens, you basically get to omit it, and I think it's up to 4 years. And then if you don't have, if it omits everything and you have to have below 4 years of yield history, you start substituting in T yields at that point. But it just allows you to do a blank. And like I say, we have an example that kind of walks you through what this can do. It may be an option for folks as more crops become available under it. The other big change to crop insurance was we had it recoupled with conservation compliance. This had gone away in the 90s, but has now come back. The main reason is because Title I FSA programs are no longer the big driver. It's now crop insurance. So there was some thoughts that we needed to tie, receiving a crop insurance subsidy premium to conservation compliance. So that was done under the Farm Bill. So conservation compliance means that you're in compliance with highly erodible lands and you're not farming on a wetland. And this is now required. It says before you purchase crop insurance, but it's mainly to get the crop insurance premium. So you have to go in each year with Farm Service Agency, file a Form 1026 by June 1 of this year. It will start this year, and this just certifies that you're in compliance. You're not farming highly erodible land without a conservation plan. You're not farming a wetland. For the most part in Maryland, this is not going to be a problem because we already require you to have a soil conservation plan that's more stringent than NRCS is going to require. So most people in Maryland are not going to have a problem with this, but if you're out of compliance and you're not doing this, you're ineligible for any portion of the crop insurance policy premium that is paid by FCIC. In other words, you can still buy crop insurance, you just pay 100% of the premium. You can get back in their good graces. If you're farming a wetland, you have to do some mitigation. put a conservation plan in place if you're doing highly erodible lands, and you can get that premium back, but it shouldn't at this point not be a problem in Maryland. And now kind of to wrap up my bit of the program. This is a spreadsheet that was put together, I believe by Gene Gantz, that we work with at RMA. And the main thing is for you to start thinking about, okay, what crops do I plan to grow in 2015, or any crop year you could actually use this, what are my estimated input costs? What are my estimated expected revenues? What protection choices are available? Is there crop insurance available? And one thing I should say, if you go to RMA's website, you can click on the regional offices where North Carolina. You can go through North Carolina, look at what is available under Maryland, what crops are protected under Maryland, and that'll kind of give you an idea if you're growing something, if it's going to be crop insurance, NAP, maybe you're thinking whole farm. Whatever you're thinking about, look at what your protection choices are. What are you considering in that, and then any additional notes you have. And this is just try to start making you think about, okay, how am I going to protect myself, because we don't want a drought or some unexpected catastrophe to wipe you out. I don't know why these slides came up like this. RMA has a premium calculator available on their website. I'll provide a link in the CSA tools, but this is just out there in case somebody wants to do it. I thought I had deleted it, actually. Apparently I didn't. But as you're developing this, how good is your risk management plan? Going back to that previous table I was showing you, what do you want your crop insurance-based risk management plan to do when disasters occur? And pulling in the information of the table is, what's the value of the crop? What are your input costs? Are you having to secure an operating loan? If you're doing a CSA, that's going to take away some of the need to do that operating loan on some of your commodities, but you're probably not doing 100% of a CSA. If you're doing livestock, what are your replacement livestock costs going to be in that? Are your livestock feed costs going to be in that? Are you doing any forward contracting? Do you have contracting with a wholesaler in any way? Oh, I see Angela's question. I'll answer it in just a second. And if you are, do you have to buy any of those out? And then what percentage of crop damage do you need to trigger a loss claim? These are all things you have to think about on your own. And as you do this, the question is your 2015 risk management plan adequate for your 2015 risk? We're almost getting to 2016, so your thoughts are going to have to move towards, is your 2015 risk management plan going to be adequate for your 2016 risk? So it's something that you may do it once, but you have to continually update it. And that is the alternative to crop insurance or NAP. And now I will answer the questions. And Angela's question is, would you need crop insurance if you were a CSA? You're 85% CSA and rest wholesale farm stand. I'm never sure if you need crop insurance. One thing to think about in all that is you're 85% CSA, so you're probably at least got 85% of your risk covered. 15% out there that you may not have covered. That's something you may have to just think about, work through the worksheets to kind of think about. I'm never really good at telling people what level of coverage they need or if they need to do it. It's all basically, in my opinion, what can you support in your operation? And you may not have to do it in your case. Any more questions? I see one person typing, and I'm going to flip over to another slide. You all are welcome. And if at the And at the
You're welcome. Yeah, our pleasure.
At the top, you will see a webinar evaluation link. I will email it out later tonight as well. If you could take a moment and evaluate our performances, it's always helpful to report back to the funding agencies how well we did. Are there any more questions? Well, thank you all for attending tonight, and I hope everyone has a good evening.